and John Longdon, a civil servant offering the planets and their satellites. Hello, I'm Clive Anderson and welcome to another episode of Discovery Mastermind. You join us at the third round stage where 24 contenders remain to compete for the title Discovery Mastermind Champion. Each contender will be quizzed on his chosen specialist subject in round one and general knowledge in round two. The two highest scoring contenders progressing to the next round. And of course, Sky viewers at home, you can join in too by pressing the red button on your remote control to lodge your vote for our brainiest contender. And in round two, there's even a chance to play along to test your own general knowledge. Well, the black chair is waiting, so may I have our first contender, please? Your name, please?
Michael Penrice.
Your occupation?
I'm a teacher.
And your specialist subject?
History of professional boxing up to 1980.
All right, Michael Penrice, your time on the history of professional boxing to 1980 starts now. Which famous lawman refereed a fight between Bob Fitzsimmons and Todd Sharkey, drawing a gun on Fitzsimmons after he had controversially disqualified him?
Wyatt Earp.
Correct. Who was the only man to beat Sugar Ray Robinson inside the distance in a world title fight?
Joey Maxim.
Correct. Born Gershon Medeloff in London's East End, which boxer won the world welterweight title from America's Jack Britton in 1915?
Ted Kid Lewis.
Correct. Born in Haywood, Lancashire in 1918, which boxer, having lost a classic bout with Benny Lynch for the world flyweight title in 1937, went on to beat Jackie Durick for the vacant flyweight world title at Anfield in September 1938?
Peter Kane.
Correct. Which Scottish boxer beat Salvatore Baruni at the Empire Pool in June 1966 to win the WBC flyweight title?
Walter McGowan.
Correct. Which former Olympic silver medalist and world light heavyweight champion wrote a book about Muhammad Ali called Sting Like a Bee in 1971?
Jose Torres.
That's correct. What name is shared by the winner of the world middleweight boxing title in 1984 and the winner of the world heavyweight title in 1919?
Dempsey.
That's it. Which British boxer beat Jose Napoles in Mexico City in December 1975 to become WBC welterweight champion?
John H. Stracey.
Well, that's correct. That answer on the bell therefore brings your scores at 8 points and no passes. Well done.
Thank you.
So on we go to our second contender, please. Your name, please.
Brian Doherty.
And your occupation?
Mathematics researcher.
And your specialist subject?
History of Berlin since 1600.
All right. So, Brian Doherty, your time on the history of Berlin since 1600 starts now. In which suburb of Berlin does the stadium built for the 1936 Olympic Games stand?
Pass.
Which distinguished Berlin pathologist also took a prominent part in politics from 1848 onwards, supporting progressive and liberal causes and opposing Stoiker's anti-Semitism?
Virchow.
Correct. In which building did the Reichstag convene after the fire of the 27th of February 1933?
Kroll Opera House.
Correct. Which engineer and archaeologist reconstructed the Pergamon altar in Berlin after spending 8 years excavating it in Anatolia?
Pass.
Which of the powers opposing him did Frederick the Great hold responsible for the plundering of the Palace of Charlottenburg in 1760 during the 7 Years' War?
Russia.
No, Saxony. Which architect was chiefly responsible for designing the Berlin Palace that was later demolished by the East German authorities in 1951?
Schluter.
Correct. Which is the only museum on the Museum Island to have been named after one of its directors?
Bode.
Correct. In which area of Berlin did Bruno Taut and Martin Wagner design the Hufeisen or Horseshoe Estate between 1925 and 27?
Bricks.
Correct. Which former Oxford Road scholar was executed at the Plossensee prison on the 26th of August 1944 as a result of the July plot against Hitler? You've got time to answer since the buzzer's gone.
Well, I'll say Stauffenberg, but it's probably...
I'm afraid you're wrong. It's Adam von Trotz. So at the end of that round, you've scored 5 points and had 2 passes. The suburb of Berlin, which has the stadium built for the 1936 Olympic Games in it. I mentioned another question, it's Charlottenburg. And the engineer and archaeologist who reconstructed the Pergamon altar in Berlin after spending 8 years excavating it, that's Carl Humann. So thank you very much, Brian Doherty. And on to our third contender, please. Right, so your name, please.
Darren Martin,
And your occupation.
Software Development Manager,
And your specialist subject, please.
Life and Films of Marilyn Monroe.
So, Darren Martin, your time on the life and films of Marilyn Monroe starts now. Who said of Monroe, I think Marilyn was as mad as a hatter. She had a woman's body, but the mind of a 4-year-old. If she hadn't had that sexy look, she'd have been locked up for sure.
Groucho Marx,
No, Tony Curtis. What was the name of the photographer with whom Monroe formed her own production company in 1954?
Milton Green,
Correct. Monroe's 1952 film Clash by Night, also starring Barbara Stanwyck, was based on a play by which dramatist?
pass.
For her performance in the film The Prince and the Showgirl, Marilyn Monroe won France's Crystal Star Award for Best Foreign Actress, and which prestigious Italian award?
Pass.
Starring Marilyn Monroe as the reigning Mrs. Mississippi, what was the only completed film in which she played a mother?
We're Not Married.
Correct. Under what name did Monroe fly to New York in November 1954, having broken her contract with 20th Century Fox?
Zelda Zonk.
Correct. In which 1950 film where Monroe played a character called Polly did Mickey Rooney's character run away from Father Rooney's orphanage?
Fireball.
Correct. Who directed the 1959 Marilyn Monroe film Some Like It Hot?
Billy Wilder.
Correct. Name the character Monroe played in the film How to Marry a Millionaire?
Paula Debevoise.
Correct. What was the occupation of Edward Mortensen, whose name was entered on her birth certificate as Norma Jean's father?
Baker.
Correct. Which former beauty queen... I've started, so I'll finish. Which former beauty queen played Monroe's mother in the film Ladies of the Chorus, despite being only 9 years older?
Adele Jurgens.
That's correct, and that brings your score up to 8 points with 2 passes. Seemed to start hard and you got better and better, or maybe easier and easier, I don't know. But Monroe's 1952 film Clash by Night, also starring Barbara Stanwyck, was based on the play by Clifford Odets. Anyway, it all comes back. For her performance in the film Prince and the Showgirl, Marilyn Monroe won France's award, which I told you rather irrelevantly, but she also won a prestigious Italian award. That's the David di Donatello Prize, or David di Donatello Prize. So thank you very much, Darren Martin. So now we come to our fourth contender. Your name, please,
John Longdon,
and your occupation,
civil servant.
and your specialist subject.
The planets and their moons.
All right, so John Longdon, your time on the planets and their satellites or moons starts now. Which word of German origin is used for a fissure or narrow channel on the moon's surface?
Rill.
Correct. Which law stating that the planets formed in an orderly procession from the sun is named after 2 German astronomers, one of whhom formulated the law and the other who published it?
Bode's law.
I need more than that.
No.
Okay. Titius Bode. To the nearest whole number, what in degrees is the axial tilt of the planet Uranus?
98 degrees.
Correct. Which of the Galilean satellites of Jupiter is the densest and was shown to have volcanic activity when the 2 Voyager spacecraft flew by it in 1979?
Io.
Correct. Which planet has the most massive atmosphere of all the terrestrial planets, the atmospheric pressure at its surface being on average about 90 times the atmospheric pressure at the Earth's surface?
Venus.
Correct. Neptune moved back inside the orbit of Pluto in February 1999. In which year will it next regain its status as the furthest planet?
2004.
No, 2227. Sueze, meaning water star, is one of the planes or planetae on Mercury, and is also the name of the planet in which language?
Chinese.
No, Japanese. What name after the Croatian geophysicist who discovered it is given to the boundary between the Earth's crust and the mantle?
Mohorovic, it discontinues.
That's correct. What name is given to the small oscillation with a period of about 19 years, an amplitude of 9.2 seconds of arc, which is superimposed on the precession of the Earth's equinoxes?
I was going to say precession, wobble.
No, for the answer there was nutation. So at the end of that round, John Longden, you've scored 5 points and no passes. So thank you very much. Okay, well, that was a pretty interesting specialist subject round. So let's look at the scores. In fourth place at the moment is Brian Doherty, who scored 5 points with 2 passes. Just ahead of him is John Longden there, who scored 5 points as well, but has no passes. Then in second place, we have Darren Martin, who's got 8 points and 2 passes. But in the lead at this stage is Michael Penrice with 8 points and no passes. All right, well, we'll see you after this break for the general knowledge questions of round 2. Yes, I'm back again. Such are the wonders of modern television. Now, if you're a Sky Digital viewer, during the first part of the show, you had the chance to vote for the contestant you thought was the brainiest. And now the voting is over. We'll be collating your votes and bringing the results after the break.
There's a new fight club. It's as old as London town. But for the slaves and prostitutes who bought their freedom from the Romans, there was only one way out. Combat, Sunday at 8 on Discovery.
It's an incredibly smooth ride, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the four-wheel drive version, this one.
It's quite striking, the look of it.
Well, more and more people seem to think so. Skoda's the fastest selling car brand in Europe.
I'll say I'm surprised. Such good value for money. And the reviews have been brilliant. So how long would I have to wait to get one?
Depends on which model you want. But we do get regular deliveries.
So it wouldn't be long then?
Shouldn't think so.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you drive us back to the showroom? If you like, we can have a look at the order form and some colour charts.
Mental decline is not an inevitable part of aging.
The average 70-year-old has 97% of the brain cells they had at 25.
Even in our 80s, we can develop new brain cells.
So you can see, we can afford to lose a few. But no need to worry.
Our minds stay agile for longer if we keep active, stimulated and challenged.
Checkmate.
Active care is something we're passionate about at Bupa.
Bupa, the personal health service.
Care homes, health insurance,
health assessment,
hospitals.
Right on target. Just for men hair color targets only your grey hair. Replaces it with subtle tones like your own natural color. All in 5 easy minutes. Right on target. Just for men, targets only the grey.
Jules, I'm just going to go to Sainsbury's and get some light bulbs.
Mum, Jules has got me back on that lower fat marking. Sort us out, Curry.
Sainsbury's, be good to yourself. The widest range of lower fat food in leading supermarkets.
Nice one, Mum. Remember, keep it still.
Jules, he had no idea.
Sainsbury's, making life taste better.
We've had a huge team collating your votes, well, one bloke with a computer, and now it's the moment you've been waiting for. The person you voted brainiest contestant is... And don't forget, Sky Digital viewers can play along with the rest of the show and have the opportunity of winning a fabulous prize by simply pressing the red button on their remotes. Hello and welcome back to Discovery Mastermind. We go on to round 2, the general knowledge round. And remember, Sky viewers at home can press their red button and play along interactively with this round. Now, at this stage, we take the contenders in the ascending order of their first round scores. So may I first have Brian Doherty again, please. History of Berlin in the first round and has done the history of Wales in previous episodes. But you're a maths researcher. What does, I mean, obviously the words make sense, researching into maths, but what does that involve? Do you sit at a computer screen all day, or you devise even more complicated
well,
ways
in practice, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to study for a PhD at Portsmouth University, so
yes,
that's what I do primarily.
All right. Well, all we need to do is nothing more sophisticated than get your number up to be either the first or second out of these 4 contenders when you've done all these questions on general knowledge. Your time for which starts now. Born in the village of Horsey in Shropshire in 1913, novelist Edith Pargeter was more widely known writing under which pseudonym?
Pass.
Related to the cabbage white, what is the colour of the brimstone butterfly?
Blue.
No, yellow. Which stately home in Yorkshire doubled as Brideshead Castle in the TV series Brideshead Revisited?
Richmond Castle.
No, Castle Howard. Which football club is named after the wife of Edward VII?
Crewe Alexandra?
Correct. The volcanic islet of Graciosa lies 1 mile off the coast of which of the Canary Islands, famous for its fire mountains and black sand beaches?
Tenerife?
No, Lanzarote. Which English-born historian between 1776 and 88 wrote the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire?
Gibbon?
Correct. The Piazza Venezia, with the white marble monument to Victor Emmanuel II towering over it, is considered the centre of the modern part of which city?
Rome?
Correct. Which word can mean either the part of an anchor, a parasitic worm, a flat fish, and an accidental success?
Dab?
No, fluke. Which fictional detective lived in Baker Street and had Mrs. Bardell as his landlady?
Sherlock Holmes?
No, Sexton Blake. Oh, I didn't quite get on to the next question there, I'm afraid, so your score has gone to 8 points with just the 1 pass. This novelist, who was born in Horsey in Shropshire in 1913, her name was Edith Pargeter, but she wrote under the name of Ellis Peters. So thank you very much, Brian Doherty. And we go on to John Longden, please. Planets and their satellites, having done Rome and Britain in previous rounds. But you're a civil servant. What sort of civil servant are you?
I work in a job centre.
All right, so you're quizzing people all day about their sort of possibilities for jobs.
Oh, well, I wouldn't like to say so.
Well, let's get on to general knowledge, see how you do there. Your time for that starts now. American talk show host Jerry Springer was once mayor of which American city?
Oh, Boston.
No, Cincinnati. Over which part of Captain Robert Jenkins' anatomy did England and Spain go to war in 1739?
His ear.
Correct. Who was appointed England football manager in succession to Bobby Robson in July 1990?
Terry Venables.
No, Graham Taylor. Which Oscar-winning film director who was born of Italian parents on the Isle of Wight wrote several scripts for early episodes of the Inspector Morse TV series?
Visconti.
No, Anthony Minghella. According to Dr. Johnson, what was the last refuge of a scoundrel?
Drink.
No, patriotism. A Nobel Peace Prize winner, Dr. Albert Schweitzer, was an accomplished exponent of which musical instrument, specializing in the works of Bach?
The organ?
The organ, yes, correct. In biology, what is the name of the 4-stage process in which a cell divides to form 2 daughter cells?
Symbiosis.
No, mitosis. Which parliamentary office, first held by Sir Peter de la Mare in 1376, remained a male-only preserve until 1992?
Speaker of the House.
That's correct. What is the name of the large volcanic island which lies off the south coast of the South... I've started so I'll finish. The South Island of New Zealand?
Mount Cook.
No, that's Stewart Island. So, I think I can correct myself. I'm sure it must have been Britain and Spain that went to war over the War of Jenkins, not England, before we get complaints. Anyway, that brings your score to 8 points and no passes. Well done, Don London. OK, so now we move on to Darren Martin. So you're a software development manager, is that a correct description of you?
Yeah, that's one of my titles, yeah.
And again, that must involve you sitting at a screen developing things, or is it more intricate than that?
No, that's about it.
Anyway, off we go with your general knowledge questions, which start now. England off-spinner Robert Croft was first capped for which cricketing county in 1992?
Derbyshire?
No, Glamorgan. The ballad opera Polly by John Gay was the sequel to which earlier work?
Beggar's Opera.
Correct. Henry Fitz-Alwyn, who held the post for 23 years, was the first holder of which civic office established in about 1189?
Archbishop of Canterbury.
No, the Lord Mayor of London. Which word of Yiddish origin is used for a hard bread roll shaped like a donut and briefly boiled before baking?
Bagel.
Correct. The Legislative Assembly of which Asian kingdom consists of a lower house called the House of Representatives, elected by the people, and an upper house called the National Assembly?
India.
No, Nepal. Which landscape painter was born at East Bergholt in Suffolk on June the 11th, 1776?
Spencer.
John Constable. Which celebrated pioneer aviator later became a consultant for Pan Am and a surveyor of new routes for them?
Limburg.
Correct. French Huguenot surgeon Peter Chamberlain, the Elder, is credited with the invention of which instrument used to assist delivery in difficult births in about 1630?
Stirrups.
No, forceps. Which rock group took their name from the title of a track on a Talking Heads album?
Pass.
In terms of the basic dimensions, I've started so I'll finish, and I'll take my time with this one. I think in terms of the basic dimensions, mass m, length l, and time t, which physical quantity is given by m times l times t to the minus 1? I hope I've made that perfectly clear.
Volume.
Volume is not quite it, I'm afraid. It's linear momentum.
Oh, yeah.
It all comes back, doesn't it? Now, that brings your score to 11 points and 1 pass. A different sort of question which you passed on, the rock group who took their name from the title of a track on a Talking Heads album, that's Radiohead.
I know.
You knew that one, did you?
Yeah.
Ah, it's too late now, sadly. Anyway, thank you very much, Darren Martin. So now we go on to Michael Penrice. A teacher. I think you're a head teacher.
Yes.
Modestly calling
yes.
yourself a teacher on this thing. Now, you took the...
Teacher, caretaker, cleaner, decorator, you name it.
How big is this school, then, that you're the head teacher?
Oh, quite small. About 60 children.
Oh, right. So is this a rural school in the middle of nowhere with...
No, it's in the middle of the large town of Wigton, which has a population of 5,000.
Right. But it's only a small school.
Yes.
Are you seeking to expand it in line with...
Any time, yes. We'd love to expand it.
Well,
it's actually a small private school.
All right. We're getting on to general knowledge now, and your time for that starts now. What name is shared by the units of currency in Iceland and Sweden?
Krona.
Correct. Which term for the BBC did Arthur Askey claim to have coined during the bandwagon programme of the 1930s?
Anti.
Correct. In which year did Prince Andrew marry Sarah Ferguson?
1986.
Correct. The National Museum of Popular Music was situated in which city until its closure in the summer of 2000?
Sheffield.
Correct. The wood of which coniferous tree native to Scotland is known as red or yellow deal?
Scots pine.
That's correct. Also known as a philfot, which symbol, deriving its name from the Sanskrit for well-being, became the national symbol of Nazi Germany?
Swastika.
Correct. Created at the Savoy Hotel for the writer and critic who used to dine there, what is an omelette Arnold Bennett filled with?
Mushrooms.
No smoked haddock. Which islands do the Argentinians refer as Las Malvinas?
Falkland Islands.
Correct. Which detective made his first appearance in the short story A Study in Scarlet?
Sherlock Holmes.
Which Canadian province is the only one to have a capital city with the same name as itself?
Quebec.
That's correct. Bell... Oh, I've just started, so I'll finish. Bell metal, from which church bells are normally made, is a form of which alloy?
It's a form of brass. Or bronze.
Oh, no.
Brass.
I'm going to hold you to your first answer there, because you're having plenty of time there, and I think you saw in my face I was about to say no.
Yes, I did.
It's bronze. So I have to be very schoolmasterly with you. So your score is 17 points and no passes. Well done. Michael Penrice. I'm not sure my being stern at the end there is going to make a very big difference to the final outcome, but let's look at the scores. In fourth place is Brian Doherty, who scored 8 points with 3 passes. Just ahead of him is John Longdon, who also scored 8 points but had no passes. Darren Martin came second with 11 points and 3 passes, but winning this contest is Michael Penrice, who got 17 right answers and no passes. As I've already explained, it's the 2 highest scoring contenders who go through to the next round, so we'll be seeing both Michael Penrice and Darren Martin again in the next round. Congratulations to them both. Please join us soon for some more Discovery Masterminds. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
And don't miss the